Greetings, I'm your host, Dr. Wolfula, and when I'm not trying to scare off guests at a local fun park built over a gangster's hidden vault, I'm here at the Wolfula reviewing movies. If you're wondering why it's been so long since we last met, well, I just explained why. Pay a fucking attention for once in your brief life. Trying to frighten folks away from valuable real estate is harder than the cartoons make it out to be. Strategically placing projectors and smoke machines is a real pain in the ass. And you almost never get away with what is otherwise the most airtight scheme ever because of, you guessed it, some meddling kids. Never because of the police, surprisingly enough, with their guns. Then again, the paperwork must be brutal when you fire upon and kill a ghost pirate. It should go without saying that the subject of today's video is Scooby-Doo. You know, the cartoon crime-stopping sleuthhound that, along with his teenage tippy pals, always thwarts the supernatural and reveals it to be a middle-aged, grave-robbing huckster in a Halloween store mask.
And I'd have found it if it wasn't for you snoopers.
This was the status quo for many years following Scoob's debut in 1969. In the mid-80s, though, the series began to stray away from its atheism and introduced real monsters to the formula.
Count Dracula's daughter. Fantastic to meet you.
It's understandable. It's not as cool if it turns out the monster was just some guy, but without that, then the Scooby Gang aren't solving mysteries. They're just teenage Ghostbusters, which was one of the shows they fucking did, with Vincent Price, no less. The first live-action Scooby-Doo flick ran with the real monsters thing, cause they're not gonna waste your time with some fake shit, but the monsters were nameless skinned rabbit things made inside a computer, and Mr. Bean turns out to be Scrappy-Doo.
Puppy power! I'm outsmarted!
Not really what anybody wanted, but Spooky Island was pretty cool. 2004 brought on the inevitable sequel, Scooby-Doo 2: Monsters Unleashed, which seeks to rectify the sins of the previous film by giving audiences some of the old-school monsters from previous cartoon shows. Yeah, I'm gonna review a children's film sequel that came out 13 years ago. I know, this video is a totally not self-indulgent great idea, right? Right? Before I jump to the story, I'd just like to note that, unlike the first movie, Monsters Unleashed actually has an opening title sequence, but it's just a shot flying through a CGI Coolsville for 2 minutes. If you recall, the first flick had a cool fucking animated intro that got cut for time, but now there's an intro and it's lame and generic like this? I'm still pissed off about it. Anyway, a new exhibit is opening at the Coulsonian Criminology Museum, dedicated entirely to the exploits of Mystery Inc., on account of the fact that they kinda have a monopoly on the whole solving mysteries involving fake monsters thing. See them building a funky Phantom museum today? I don't think so. The gang has also donated to the museum all the costumes and gimmicks that their foes employed. So wait, they kept all those costumes? Isn't that all evidence? Apparently solving mysteries for no money pays well because Mystery Inc. is fucking rich in this movie. Look at that pimpin' Mystery Machine limo. It's a real embarrassment of riches when you feel the need to put your ostentatious branding on a luxury vehicle, and it also goes against the hippie message of shedding yourself of possessions, but hey, it's cool. I'd buy it. While I'm still on the tangent of the Mystery Machine, I'd just like to bring up something that's been bugging me for a while about the live-action movies. The Mystery Machine has what appears to be black scorch marks spray-painted in the rear during all of its appearances in these movies, and I just want to know why! Is it some kind of bullshit legal requirement? This has been driving me nuts. Well, even more nuts. So the gang's being honored tonight, and are greeted by a warm reception. Each member has their own subsect of fans. Fred has his underage girls, Velma has her dumpy broads that want to fuck her, Daphne has her dumpy guys that want to fuck her, and Shaggy has his wastoid burnouts shrouded in smoke. This really is an accurate portrayal of the Scooby-Doo fandom.
I love her so much!
Oh yeah, dogs are also present at this museum opening to fawn over Scooby. Just think, long before Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was taking the box office by storm, James Gunn was sitting at a laptop writing this bullshit. While basking in the glory of mysteries past, the museum is assaulted by the pterodactyl ghost from episode 203 of the Scooby-Doo show. Hang in there, Scooby-Doo. Remember that one? It was pretty good. Speaking of which, hang in there, Scooby-Doo! This fiendish plot was hatched by this sinister fellow who looks like Dr. Doom fucked Danny DeVito.
And this time, you'll be the ones unmasked.
This evil masked figure is known only as the evil masked figure. Like, seriously, that's what this dude is called in the credits. Someone actually has evil masked figure on their IMDb page. Anyway, this pterodactyl and the Bionic Don King make off with a couple of the Halloween costumes, which isn't a big deal, except for all the property damage. This little fiasco leaves Mystery Inc. utterly disgraced.
It was an utter disaster as two of the gang's key members, Norval Shaggy Rogers and Scooby-Doo, are seen here causing untold damage to Coolsville's hottest new tourist attraction, which took a full 2 years to complete.
The gang's reputation hasn't been this damaged since Fred's human trafficking scandal. Mystery Inc. isn't just going to rest on their laurels and feel bad about themselves. No, sir. They're gonna get out of their cool fucking mansion and solve the mystery. So, right off the bat, Scooby-Doo 2 is an improvement over the first. Not a huge statement, I know, but it's nevertheless true. For one thing, this movie actually has a Scooby-style mystery instead of last time with the gang separating for some reason and then having to deal with Scrappy/Mr. Bean's plan to sacrifice Scooby-Doo so he can take over the world. Really weird premise for your first Scooby-Doo movie. Monsters Unleashed keeps things simple and is much closer to the cartoon because of it, except they do a lot of prime mystery solving during the day. What's up with that? Consequently, Scooby-Doo 2 is much more kid-friendly than the first flick. You won't find any sneaky references to, like, blowjobs or anything, and the kick in the balls and fart jokes are back in full force.
Well, that was my outfit, I swear.
You see, back in the mid-2000s, the Kids' Choice Awards had a category for favorite fart in a movie, and every film was trying to get their hands on this prestigious honor. Matthew Lillard may not have an Oscar for his work, but he has something so much more valuable. This time around, there's an attempt at having a decent mystery with multiple suspects that actually have motives. The chief suspect is Old Man Wickles, the old man who started it all, played by the late Peter Boyle.
I don't know nothing about no monsters.
Wickles was the Black Knight ghost, Mystery Inc.'s first ever case. Unless you count a pup named Scooby-Doo as canon, which this movie apparently does since Chickenstein appears in it.
To make you kids extinct!
It's Chickenstein!
Like Chickenstein.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna try not to get too wrapped up in Scooby-Doo continuity. That's a dangerous road. Wickles had some affiliation in prison with Jonathan Jacobo, a mad scientist obsessed with creating real monsters, who disguised himself as the pterodactyl ghost to rob banks. Well, actually, the pterodactyl ghost was a guy named Johnny who tried to cover up his music pirating scheme. Okay, I know. I said that I wouldn't get wrapped up in Scooby-Doo continuity. It's just all I have. Either way, Jacobo accidentally killed himself anyway, so the gang settles on investigating Old Man Wickles for old time's sake. They head over to Wickles Manor, which looks like it was taken straight out of a mid-90s full-motion video game cutscene. Within the manor, the gang discovers a tome that contains instructions for creating monsters.
Can you read it? It's an amalgamation of magic and science.
Amalgamation of magic and science? Oh, do you suddenly have a magic degree, Velma? We all know you Mystery Inc. kids were teen runaway high school dropouts, so stop pretending you know all this shit and aren't just Googling it. Appropriately, it's also here in Wickles Manor where the gang encounters another real live foe of theirs, Black Knight Ghost. And unlike that sanitized original, this Black Knight is armed and ready to kill some fucking meddling kids. Except live-action Daphne knows martial arts or something, and engages in an extended melee with the villain. This elaborate sequence doesn't serve much of a purpose beyond being the build-up to a ball-kicking joke, and then the gang just leaves. Okay. So, that's the basic premise of Scooby-Doo 2. The gang has to repair their rep after an evil masked figure, literally named Evil Masked Figure, disgraces them and turns Halloween costumes into real monsters through a magical compound called randomonium.
It contains randomonium, which this book says is the critical ingredient needed to make monsters.
What, did James Cameron come up with that name? Scooby-Doo 2's story is simple and straightforward, like an episode of the show.
Why, it's Zeb and Zeke.
They were the ones that hijacked the armored car and sunk it in the swamp.
Then they waited all this time till it was safe to look for it, but couldn't find it.
So they invented the Witch and Zombie Act to keep people away.
While they searched the swamp with a metal-tipped pole.
I get it.
Monsters Unleashed follows the formula of the cartoon much more faithfully, resulting in something that feels more like the source material, but at the same time, it doesn't feel all that memorable by itself. I'm starting to think that this series would have been far more successful if Scooby-Doo 2 came out first as a safe, normal movie that introduces the characters and basic concept of the show, followed by the more out-there story of the original movie. It would have made more sense, seeing as the original dealt with the gang breaking up. That's some Empire Strikes Back shit right there. Scooby-Doo 2, though, actually has a mystery with investigating shit, clues, and suspects with actual motives instead of a voodoo maestro who's only a suspect because Daphne the Wasp is fucking prejudiced. One of the suspects ties into Velma's subplot. Patrick, the museum curator that Velma pines for during the whole flick.
So maybe you'd want to go together.
Plus, you mean like
a date with me.
Oh, I can't, Patrick.
Oh.
Mystery is my mistress. I must heed her sweet call.
I'd say the same thing if Seth Green asked me out on a date. Those exact words. Patrick's only defining characteristic to the rest of the gang is that he's a museum curator.
Museums.
But Velma's afraid of disappointing him by not being the sexy jet-setter she assumes that he assumes she is. So at one point, Daphne dresses up Velma as a catsuit-wearing Rule 34 version of herself. It's like Lisa Ann cosplaying as Velma.
Who's your mommy?
My mommy?
Just exudes raw sexual power. I don't even know why Daphne owned an orange latex jumpsuit to begin with. Oh god, Fred and Daphne must have some sick, kinky bedroom role-playing game where they dress up as the other members of the gang. It explains where Shaggy got that Fred/Shaggy hybrid outfit. And Scoob? Oh Jesus, Fred and Daphne, why? Yeah, so, I think Velma's subplot is again just thrown in so people don't think she's like a lesbo or something. Just like Velma's nameless love interest from the first flick. No joke, even though that dude had fucking dialogue, he's still credited as Velma's friend. Oh shit, friend-zoned in the fucking credits. Savage as fuck. Come to think of it, what happened to Shaggy's love interest from the first film, Mary Jane? I guess he must have smoked her. Anyway, Patrick's a suspect because he's, I don't know, schizophrenic.
It was a joke? Yeah. Oh, that was good. You had a lot of fun.
Oh, and he's supposedly obsessed with Jonathan Jacobo, but who isn't? The guy's dreamy. The other prime suspect is one Heather Jasper Howe, played by that insane sideways mouth-talking actress who played Batgirl once, Alicia Silverstone.
It's my job to unmask those who pretend to be who they're not.
A news correspondent slash news anchor, doesn't make sense, who is obsessed with smearing the Mystery Inc. crew incessantly by editing everything Fred says out of context.
All Fred Jones had to say was,
I think Coolsville sucks.
That's more an editor's job, so that guy must fucking hate them. The prime suspect above all others, though, is Old Man Wickles, which ties into Shaggy and Scooby's major subplot. In the wake of the museum fuck-up, Shag and Scoob blame themselves for the havoc that took place, and the rest of the gang just digs the knife in deeper behind their backs.
It's my fault, too. We all know how Shaggy and Scooby can be.
Right then and there, Shaggy and Scoob make it their mission to stop being wimps that raid refrigerators and shrink in terror at the sight of sheep ghosts, instead being heroes.
We will be terrific and fantastic and spectacular and cease to be loserific, lame-tastic and sucktacular.
Rah-rah, sucktacular.
At the manor, when Shag and Scoob dig through Wickles' drawers and wear his drawers, they enthusiastically have a little sing-along into a toilet bowl brush for some reason. Why is this notable? Well, they sing Strangers in the Night, a little Easter egg referencing the Sinatra song that inspired Scooby-Doo's name.
Exchanging glances, Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Just some trivia. Anyway, though, during the fan service, the two discover a pretty vague sticky note that could have been posted a while ago that they interpret to be a clue. Shaggy and Scooby withhold this evidence from the rest of the gang and take matters into their own hands in order to prove themselves as some kind of mystery-solving vigilantes. I'd watch that show. More fan service. The two head on over to the Faux Ghost, as specified in the note, which is a nightclub dedicated to washed-up crooks who dressed up as monsters, but ironically, the Faux Ghost logo is Charlie the Robot, who not only was not a ghost, but he was also one of the few Scooby-Doo foes that wasn't a guy in a mask. Charlie was just a full-blown robot. All of Mystery Inc.'s previous haunts are winding down inside the Faux Ghost, including Redbeard and the Ozark Witch. All of these people were costume crooks? It looks like a My Chemical Romance concert being held inside of Joe's Crab Shack. Realizing full well they'd get lynched if they set foot in this den of iniquity / den of people that hate them, Shag and Scoob ingeniously disguised themselves with costume crook personas, Shizzy McCreepy and SD McCrawley, which just look like a cartoon pimp and a hippie high school art teacher.
We are in the house and ready to party!
This whole scene doesn't serve much purpose, though, beyond providing an excuse to have a cartoon dog dance to a Sly and the Family Stone song covered by Big Brothers. Every movie has to have that, though. Matthew Lillard spends a great deal of the film pretty much by himself with nothing but a CGI mutt added later to keep him company, but once again, Lillard makes it work.
Wickles has led us into like a terrifying ghost town.
Ghost town?
Yes, a ghost town.
His Shaggy's authentic to the character, and he makes you believe that that CG dog is actually for real, despite the cartoon Shaggy's claims otherwise.
You made me sound like a total space cadet, man!
I'm sorry you feel that way. I was trying to be real to your character.
If you like goof on me in the sequel, I'm coming after you!
Yeah, and I'll give you a Scooby smack!
It's really impressive when an actor can take to acting around nothing that eventually becomes CGI and make it actually feel real, even when the final product is pretty fucking dodgy, even by 2004 standards. What the fuck? The other Mystery Inc. performers are fine. Linda Cardellini has the Velma voice down, though she's lost the deadpan smark that she had in the first movie and isn't all that amusing this time around.
But I'm more comfortable in the world of logic and facts.
Sarah Michelle Gellar as Daphne and Freddie Prinze Jr. as Fred have the challenge of playing the two normal, typically bland characters.
The prince loves us.
They're both fine enough. They don't feel like they're playing dumb bimbo caricatures this time around, but instead feel like normal people in cartoon clothing running a joint venture, which I guess is what it is in real life, but we all know Sarah Michelle Gellar wears the pants in that relationship. Freddy's a Twitch streamer now, playing video games and shit. The only thing that annoys me about Sarah Michelle Gellar's performance is that she likes to tip her chin up a lot when she's talking. What's up with that? Kinda smug if you ask me.
Quick, we need to think of a comeback.
What dorks?
Hey! Shut up!
Oh yeah, Fred also has a very minor subplot where he's afraid to look like a wimp.
Do you want to talk?
Talking's for wimps.
That's pretty much it for his arc. One major issue I have with the portrayal of the characters is their wardrobes this time around. In the first movie, Mystery Inc.'s clothes felt natural, like the modern version of the characters if they actually wore different clothes every day. With Scooby-Doo 2, though, things are taken to an extreme from the get-go during the museum opening. Fred looks like he's dressed as a Vegas wedding chapel Elvis, Velma's wearing a dress with carrots on it, and Shaggy's tux looks like it was made out of a soiled carpet. Don't think Daphne isn't immune to shitty wardrobes either. When she takes off her shawl during her big fight scene, she's inexplicably wearing a t-shirt with her own face on it. That's just some weird Chinese bootleg shit right there. There are some strange production design choices all around, and mixed with some shoddy CGI, art-wise, the movie generally isn't all that attractive to look at, especially compared to the beautiful-looking sets and real locations of the first flick. I mean, look at the main villain's design! Who thought this was passable? It all looks way too cheesy, fake, and cheap-looking, which is weird, because you'd think with all the product placement, they'd be spending all that fat Burger King money.
How come we can't ever investigate like a Burger King or something?
They even redubbed that line to get some of that fat KFC money, too.
How come we can't ever investigate like a KFC or something?
Where'd it go? Cocaine and hookers. Whenever you take your kids to see a Minions movie, just remember it's paying for somebody in Hollywood to do some unspeakable things. The music of Scooby-Doo 2, composed by David Newman, is okay, just more of the same. It's a generic, orchestrated version of the Scooby-Doo Where Are You theme, but it just doesn't hold a candle to the more ambient, fluty guitar twangs of the original series. Monsters Unleashed has far less licensed music, which is good, I guess, but I don't know. There was something endearing about seeing Shaggy try to find Scooby snacks with Outkast in a music video for the first flick. Man, Shagster sure is white. Alright, y'all, I'm gonna be spoiling the rest of Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed. If you don't want it spoiled, Well, skip to this fucking time code or whatever. This is so fucking stupid. The second half of the movie is where things go to hell for the gang. After James Gunn potentially reveals that he has some weird transformation fetish through a pointless scene where Shag and Scoob drink potions, the gang discovers a chamber inside Old Man Wickle's silver mine where all the monsters are being created through the power of randomonium. In a moment of total retardation, Shaggy and Scooby treat the control disc as if it's a game of Simon, essentially adding the Monsters Unleashed to the film's title. If anything, Shaggy and Scooby are the real villains of this movie. The monsters brought to life include Captain Cutler's ghost and the tar pit monster, but no creeper, no spooky space kook, or even the phantom shadow? What kind of bullshit is this? Fuck that. The gang swipes the control disc and vamoose before their old foes flay them one by one, but the monsters terrorize the town for as long as Mystery Inc. remains in hiding, which results in Coolsville hating these colorful, mystery-solving hippies even more, picketing in front of Mystery Inc. headquarters like they're fundies at a Planned Parenthood opening.
Turn in, Mystery Inc. Your reward will let you live.
Actually, how did they make that ship anyway? I thought the evil masked figure could only make, like, the costumes come to life. So, the Mystery Inc. gang cowardly retreats to their old clubhouse from their early mystery-solving days. You know, the one that was in so many episodes of the original series. That one. After all these years, I'm surprised this shack hasn't been looted or was being occupied by squatters. Anyway, the gang has a little mope session that soon evolves into a reminisce session when they find an old pic of themselves not solving mysteries but playing frisbee. Wait a second, who took that photo? This flashback to Fred's early days of being a sexual predator is actually foreshadowing, in a kinda dumb way I'll get into later. For now, this motivates the gang to get back into the spirit of saving the day by rejiggering the control disc into a device that might just reverse the monster-making process somehow. You know, when you're dealing with something called randomonium, it doesn't matter what the science is. After an extended downtown chase from monsters with grade-A sight gags, the gang returns to the old mine to reverse the mess Shag and Scoob made, but one by one, the gang finds themselves compromised by their old foes. Fred decides to slow the Black Knight Ghost down, and luckily he knew exactly where a pristine motorcycle was located at this mine for him to joust the medieval sumbitch. Oh fuck, he brought out the ascot. That means some real shit's about to go down. Daphne takes on the 10,000 volt ghost, but, you know, electricity beats karate every time. That's the one lesson you can take from this film. It could save your life, kids. Fred and Daphne do manage to best their two foes by working together though, causing the 10,000 volt ghost to transfer through jumper cables into the Black Knight Ghost's genitals. It's good to know that Mystery Inc. employs ISIS-level torture tactics. The gang is whittled down to Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby, but even Velma has to take one for the team.
Take this.
Why are you giving this to me?
I'll distract those skeletal screwballs. You and Scooby get this to the monster hive.
Needless to say, Shag and Scoob are apprehensive about this. Velma retorts with a motivational speech for the two.
I always wanted to be like you guys. You guys are so free. You're never afraid to be who you really are. Whether you're fearful or joyful or hungry. I think you've been heroes all along. You just haven't known it.
This is a genuinely touching message about not being afraid to be who you truly are. It would carry much more weight if it wasn't followed by Shaggy and Scooby being chased by a ghost prospector, but hey, at least the movie has some heart. After a deadly confrontation with the cotton candy glob, the gang reunites in the monster-making chamber and have to deal with the evil masked figure sicking venom on them. Yeah, so the gang, tosses the control disc to each other. Kind of like a frisbee? Get the symbolism, pal? Huh? Yeah, it's irrelevant anyway, because while the rest of the gang is being slowly murdered, Scooby-Doo solely saves the day by utilizing the fire extinguisher boarding skills he was never established as having, freezing the tar pit monster in the process and snapping the control disc in place. Mary Sue? More like Mary Do. The monsters are then returned to being shitty costumes instead of shitty CGI. The day is saved through the power of teamwork. I guess. Okay, not really. So who's the killer? I mean, person in robotic ape mask. None other than that bitch Alicia Silverstone, along with her flunky cameraman, Ned. But why? Well, underneath the CGI Alicia Silverstone mask is Jonathan Jacobo. Even the juicy female roles go to men in Hollywood.
The original pterodactyl ghost.
But how do you know this?
Obviously, Velma fucking peeked. Let's not pretend that that's not what they do when they wait for the police and media to arrive.
And the real identity of Ned is... Ow. Ned!
Fred, that counts as assault. You're going to jail with these guys, too.
You were a dude this whole time?
Of course. Don't cough.
But we cuddled.
Man, this is just like the Crying Game, except with pterodactyl ghosts. Wait, though, so did Jacobo get some surgery done, or is he wearing some kind of sophisticated rubber woman suit under his clothes? I need to know more about what went on in that bedroom, for science.
I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for those meddling punks and that damn dog!
So, everybody's happy. The girl got the museum curator, the girl got the guy, I'm not sure what Fred is, the boy got the 19th century diver's helmet, and the dog got to beat the shit out of his owner with a boom mic. A very productive day and a half, I must say. But how does this movie end itself from here? Well, this was a mid-2000s children's film, so of course, it has to end with all the characters dancing to a pop song for no particular reason. It worked for Shrek, right? And, inexplicably, Mystery Inc. holds their celebration at the Faux Ghost, the place operated and patronized exclusively by people who hate them. Why do they suddenly all stop hating the gang after that last mystery? Are they just renting the place out? What's going on here? There are some other fucking oddities in this closing credit sequence besides how white people dance. Like, they show Heather Jasper Howe dancing with Ned, but wasn't Heather never a real person? Isn't Ned in jail? They're on the museum set, so it's a pretty fucking confusing thing to see. Much like the other Marvel movies it preceded, Scooby-Doo 2 ends with a post-credits scene, but it's just Scooby revealing a secret code for the game adaptation. Oh, it's just the initials of the movie. Really clever, THQ. Really thinking outside the fucking box. It was totally worth sitting through the entire credits for that. I'll download the ROM this instant. Oh man, just think. The last shot of the theatrical live-action Scooby-Doo films has him just shilling his video game. Fucking weak. Well, that was Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed, and while it's not exactly the highest point in the franchise's history, it's not completely terrible. I mean, at least it didn't have fucking Flim Flam, that piece of shit. I fucking hate that kid! I hate him! Oh, I'm sorry. Monsters Unleashed has a really lame main villain. It lacks a lot of fan-favorite monsters from the series' history. It has Seth Green. The production design is kinda shitty. The CGI is spotty. And it has a shitload more dancing than is necessary, but it's a kid's movie. It makes an effort to actually be like the cartoon, and I must stress this. It doesn't have Flim Flam in it. Fucking Flim Flam. I give Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed a muscular Shaggy out of female Shaggy. I would have gotten away with it too, if it hadn't been for you fucking kids and your fucking dog.
You want to buy a box of cookies?
Excuse me. Have you heard the good news?
Yeah, there's cookies.